or not. It doesn't even flash, so I don't even know if this is recording. I wanted to let you know about a really interesting lecture we had the other day. So at the moment we're learning about acquired speech impairments. So what that means is people who have had a stroke or brain... Oh, my phone. Sorry about that. People who had a stroke or a brain injury or might have progressive disorders, so like Parkinson's, MS, things like that. We're learning about how things like that affect people's speech and swallowing this year. 5 different people come in and talk about their experiences of speech therapy and things that they've really taken away from the experience of either having a stroke or a brain injury that's affected their speech or their swallowing. So the first lady that came in to see us was lovely. She had a stammer. So her stammer is what they call interiorized. So that kind of means that it kind of has a psychological base. So she stammers more when she's anxious and when she feels the pressure that she needs to speak properly, she'll stammer. She, as a child, didn't realise that she stammered. She had a couple of people come into school to kind of assess her, but they came away with nothing. And she told us later that that was because she had coping strategies. So because of her type of stammer, the interiorised stammer, it means that she can kind of just cover it up as best she can in certain situations. So she can avoid using certain words if she knows she's going to stammer on them, or she could just not talk as much, so let other people talk. And that was really interesting to hear. So she said that she does that quite a lot and had done up until her teens. So when she was a teenager, she obviously noticed her stammer a little bit more, and but she still said she didn't get teased or anything, so it was all that thing about covering it up. And a lot of people, I think, oh, well, if she can cover it up, then isn't that okay? But she said the effort that goes into her covering up her stammer is sometimes not worth it. She said with certain friends who have known her as a non-stammerer, she sometimes does cover it up because telling them is more effort than not. But she said with new people now, she's more likely to tell them about her stammer, making them aware of it, and then she doesn't have to put in so much of that effort to cover it up, because she said she literally feels so fatigued after having spent like an hour covering up her stammer. I can imagine that it would be really hard to do that. She told us about how she'd self-referred herself to a speech therapist and how she feels like that's a really good thing that she's done, because obviously not many people pick up on it. If she can cover it up, then a lot of people don't realise. So she felt herself that it was becoming a bigger thing, and she self-referred herself to speech therapy. And she said she's learned loads of different tactics now about making people aware that she's a stammerer, and kind of making it okay. So she'll go into shops now and stammer at people just so that she knows that their response isn't going to be negative, because 9 times out of 10 it won't be. And I think that's like the fear that somebody's going to laugh. So yeah, that was the first lady, and she was lovely. And then we went off in different groups. So our cohort is about 60 people, so we went off into different groups, and we each saw somebody different. So the first meeting we had with my little group was with 2 men. So one of them who had a stroke, I think he was about 40 something. He told us all about his life, how he had had the stroke, so when it had happened, and he was basically saying how it had affected his speech. So he had word finding difficulties, so when he's speaking, sometimes he'll come to a stop and he just won't be able to find that word. He knows what the word means and he knows it's there, he just can't get it out. So he was telling us about the struggles of that. He had some issues with answering questions, so when he was asked quite broad questions he found that really hard, so we were trying to aim for really simple questions with him so he could answer specifically, and that really helped him to get an answer out. The second man we saw was I think he was about 40 something too, maybe 50. And he'd had a brain injury, so he was telling us all about how he'd been in a motorbike accident. He was lovely. He said that he didn't really have much need for speech therapy when he was in hospital. He said mainly the damage to his brain caused weakness in his arms and legs, and that was like the main thing for him. So during his hospital stay he had lots of physio and OT input to make sure that he could get his movement back in his arms and legs, which I'm glad to say he has now. Obviously it's still limited, so a lot of the time you won't get back full mobility, but yeah, he was walking and using his arms, so that's definitely a step up from where he was at hospital. He was very reassuring to us about how our jobs were really worthwhile, which was lovely. He said how he thought that speech therapy was something that, even though he hadn't had a lot of input from, he noticed that it was something that was really important for people like him who had had brain injury that had affected his speech and swallow. He basically said to live our lives to the full and all that cliche stuff, but a lot of us took that away from that session and felt quite emotional really by it, because I think we realised that obviously on a day-to-day basis as speech therapists we go in and we see these clients, and our main job is to analyse their speech or their swallow and to assess them, and we don't really get to, well, I know we're talking to them and we're asking them questions, but we're not really taking that in when we're analysing people's speech. We're concentrating on the speech and not really the content that they're telling us. So it was really nice to just sit back and listen to people's stories and not have to analyse their speech or assess their swallow. And I guess that's going to really help me and all of the other people on my course doing speech therapy, because we now have a better understanding about how it feels to be, say, 5 months post-stroke, and it's really nice to know that the input that we have is doing some good. So it was just really good, basically. I just wanted to tell you guys about it. So thank you Kathy and Sam for putting on that lecture. If you liked that video and hearing about what we learnt in the lecture, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to hear any more about what I'm doing as a speech therapy student. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye bye.